Hi everyone, it's Mr.Manthey coming back again with another video art lesson. This one is going to be for my kindergartners, first graders, and second graders. So as I was writing this lesson for you guys, I was thinking about, okay, we're getting close to the end of the year and it's a good time to review some things that we went over a little while back, way back in the fall of last year. And when we talk about review in art, the easiest place to start is with our basic building blocks of drawing. And those are going to be your lines and your shapes. So we talked about our lines and our shapes in August and September of last year. And when we talked about our shapes, we talked about the two different styles of shapes. We had geometric shapes, and then we had organic shapes or natural shapes. Now, natural shapes, as my kitty goes by, natural shapes are shapes that we see out in nature but don't necessarily have lines or have names because they're not as common as our geometric shapes. And I said when we talked about them that we usually call them blobs. Okay? So still a shape but doesn't really have a name because we don't see it as often as our family of geometric shapes. Now, what I wanted you to do for this project is I wanted you to choose out any kind of animal you could think of and try and draw your animal with just geometric shapes. So at first that might sound kind of hard and you might go, oh my goodness, Mr. Manthey, geometric shapes, you can't make a whole animal out of them. But when we break down what geometric shapes are, we see we actually have a lot of options to go with. So we have the rectangle and the triangle, the diamond, the pentagon, the hexagon, and then finally over here the trapezoid. So these are shapes that all have straight edges and hard angles to them, and we see them so much that we gave each one its own name so that way we can identify them right away. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use this family of shapes and I'm going to try and make a crocodile or an alligator. Now, what I'm going to start off with my alligator, my crocodile, is basically the most important part on any alligator or crocodile is the mouth. Alligators and crocodiles have long mouths that can snap shut and help them eat their prey. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use my ruler, and I'm going to start sliding along my marker, or if you want to use a pencil, you can use a pencil, along my ruler. And that's going to be a triangle for the top part of my gator's mouth, and then a triangle for the bottom part of my alligator's mouth. Alright. Now, alligators don't just have long mouths, they also have a bunch of razor sharp teeth in them. So inside my mouth, I'm going to add some tinier triangles. And now we have my alligator's mouth and his teeth. So now we need to go back and we need to try and work into the rest of the alligator's body. So alligators have really long bodies, and I probably won't be able to fit it on my paper, but they also have very long tails, and then they have short, kind of like stubby little legs. So a nice long body shape that I'm going to use is going to be a rectangle. So I'm going to go ahead and use my ruler, again, just keeping everything nice and straight. If you don't have a ruler, you can use the side of a colored pencil box or a marker box. There's a lot of things around your house as you look around that will have flat edges that you can use. Alright, so I've got my alligator's head and his body, and I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing that I did with the teeth up top, and that's because alligators actually have spikes along the ridge of their back. So I got my alligator spikes, I got his body. Let's move on to some of these legs. Now let me see here. I'm going to start off with maybe a trapezoid coming off of here. So I'm actually going to use the flat side of the rectangle to make a trapezoid like that. And I'm going to do the same thing back here. And there we go. We've got some short legs for my gator. They kind of look like they're floating backwards, so maybe my alligator is swimming right now. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a small diamond onto the ends of those and give my alligator his feet. Alright, so now I've got his feet. And what I'm going to do is, just like the teeth and the spikes, give them a couple triangles. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And there we go. Now we've got our alligator's claws. Now let me see here. How should I do the tail? Well, let's go ahead and let's have our tail going off the edge of the paper. Sometimes our drawings aren't always contained by the paper. And this doesn't mean that the alligator's tail is chopped off. When we look at this drawing and we see it going off the edge of the paper, we can look at that and assume, okay, his tail still goes and extends past there. So this would have been a triangle, and it's going to go off the edge of the paper. So far I've used a trapezoid, I've used a rectangle, I've used a triangle, I've used a diamond. Let's see where I can put a pentagon. Oh, I know where we can put a pentagon. Our alligator needs an eyeball. Now, if you ever want to see something that's a little bit gross but also a little bit cool, you can look up a video of an alligator's eyeball, because they actually have 2 different eyelids. And that way it can keep its eyes open while it's underwater and above water. So there's my alligator eyeball, and maybe I'll just add a black triangle in there. And there's his eyeball. And then I'm actually going to use this hexagon to add a little bit of texture to my alligator. So what's nice about hexagons is they are what we call a tessellation. A tessellation is a shape where you can fit it almost like a puzzle piece on all sides. So I can keep doing, even though my hexagons are getting a little bit wonky because I'm not using my ruler right now, you can keep patterning these hexagons and you'll never get to a spot where one doesn't fit. So now we see, as I'm building up more and more of these hexagons, I'm starting to give my alligator a bit of a scaly texture. And alligators are very scaly and very hard scales. So they are not like the kind of scales where if you've ever touched a snake or you've touched a lizard, it feels really smooth. Alligator skin almost is like metal. It's so hard. It's like an armor. Alright? So what I would do is I would go all through there, and then once I was done, I would probably pull out my colored pencils or maybe my crayons, depends on what you want to use, and I would start filling in some different colors. So I might go into one scale with this kind of mossy dark green, and then do another scale with a light green. And just switch back and forth. Maybe I'll make one of them brown because alligators like to hang out in the mud and they get dirty and they don't really mind. So maybe I'll make the ones on his belly brown, and that'll be like he was laying in the mud. Alright, so as you're going through this and as you're challenging yourself to try and make an animal out of all different geometric shapes, I want you to also pay attention to the things around you and see what objects what things in real life are geometric shapes. So as I'm talking to you, I'm drawing on a rectangle. I'm using a ruler, which is a rectangle. We have triangles all around us as well, wherever you see corners. If you look at, like, I'll show you, like, the top of my coffee mug is like a circle. So as an artist, just be mindful of the things around you and look around and try and notice, okay, what shapes are there? And that's going to really help you break down how you draw things, is thinking first, how do I break this down into shapes? And then once you get your basic shapes on there, okay, how do I add details in order to make it look more lifelike or more realistic? Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed. Have fun with this, and I look forward to seeing your geometric animals.